4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Okay, hello, internet world. This is the Dear Man. I'm back to give you another episode of Carly Saturn. Can't wait to be done with this story. I wonder which one is next. I'm very curious. See what's next. Oh, my light is always going off. Come on, light. Maybe if I do this. Anyway, oh my god, the glare. It's just like my apartment in Sac. Anyway. Where was I? I thought you had him. I did. I don't know what happened. It was like he was coated in grease for a second. It was like fucking South Park. The trio bolted down the hall after the wild Carly. Carly glanced back over his shoulder, mad-eyed and desperate, pushing his speed as fast as his legs could carry him, keeping him by some miracle just ahead of Paul and Sherry, out of their range. But time was closing in on him. They were gaining distance and speed. At last, suddenly, the doors of the elevators appeared before Carly, and he pushed that much desperately ahead. If only he could just make it, he urged his scrawny body forwards. He leaned ahead, away from the bodyguards as he ran. Closer, closer with every step. The rider of the elevator left the cab and wandered off down the hall, so oblivious to the scene racing down the hall towards them that for a moment Carly questioned their very existence. But he didn't have time for that. Not a moment to spare. In a quick, rocket-like burst of speed, Carly barreled his naked body. Oh yeah, he's naked. I forgot about this shit. Isn't it? I think there's a story about Slash from Guns N' Roses running around a hotel when he was naked and fucked up on drugs. I don't remember. Into the elevator cab. The elevator cab? Okay. And slammed his hand down on the button for the lowest floor. Now the door closed with its agonizing slowness. His ears rung, his eyes sweated with the begging of desperation inside his heart and lungs and bones. Here comes Siva, here comes the bodyguard. They were almost there. Then suddenly the doors slid closed. Carly felt the rush of gravity as the cab lowered, taking him away, taking him down in this cool little icebox he now felt himself in. Fuck. Paul whacked his hand down on the elevator button, but it was no use. Carly was already gone. He groaned out in a loud, angry growl, tipped his head back, and watched bitterly the numbers descending in LED above the door, chronicling Carly's descent away from them. And he, Sherry, Siva, all powerless to stop it. Fuck me. Which floor is he going to? Sherry was quick to demand. Oh, he demanded, okay, impatiently. He paced in his spot, looking up and down the hall, as if Carly might suddenly materialize on the other side. Gene is going to kill us for not keeping a hold on him. Fuck that, Sherry snapped back. By the time Gene knows, we'll already have him back. He's confident. Now suddenly they both turned to Siva, who had been standing quietly and nervously. Where do you think he went? Yeah, where is he most likely to have gone? Rapidly, Siva looked from one of them to the other, in disturbed confusion, in upsetting pressure. He squeaked out. He was chasing something, was all the drummer managed to say. He looked from one of the big men to the other. He said he saw some animal or something. Paul and Sherry exchanged glances. Some animal. In real life, I don't think a famous band would give so much of a fuck about what their bodyguards think, but whatever, maybe this is just their dynamic, you know. Let's find him, Sherry said, speaking the obvious. He turned and already he was heading off down the hallway towards the stairs. He looked back over his shoulder to Paul, who was already following quickly in tow, not one to be left behind. And then there was Siva, who, confused, trailed after them awkwardly. Carly left the elevator the moment the doors opened. As soon as he saw the door begin to slide back and the hopeful light beyond, Carly pressed his body to the wall and wriggled through the opening. The late, early morning hotel was so still, so quiet. Carly peered around in wonder and fascination at all the rows upon rows of closed doors. No movement. Simply the dead silence that left a long, quiet panging in his ears. He walked, the cool air laying upon his bare skin, but as he came to the end of the hall and rounded the silent corner, suddenly there was a sound, some kind of intriguing, mysterious noise. And as he paused for a moment and looked off down the long row of doors, he could see even from here that one of them was ajar, a portal leading to somewhere. And anywhere was good enough. He just had to keep moving. Shadows flickered across the open doorway, bodies moving past from inside. He heard laughter for a moment. Is this like The Shining? Now the mysterious noise was definable. It was voices, chattering, talking, relaxed as could be, and he gravitated towards it all that much more, picking up a little intrigued, drawn-in speed as he walked. His bare feet quickened across the spongy floor. Little by little, the voices began to take form. Words, intelligible words, themselves began to materialize out of the indiscernible babble. Movement and footsteps shifting could be heard from inside. Beds squeaking. Oh my god, I love. Did you see when that song? Oh man, that's my favorite. I saw it in Tampa last year. Best night of my whole life. Up to now, you mean? They all laughed. Yeah, up to now. Another rackety chorus of echoing laughter out of the silence. Man, Carly Saturn is a genius. Amen to that, baby. Poor thing, with all that money. Laughter. Well, but you know what I mean. Yeah, he's a tortured soul, said that one slightly playfully. He's not a happy person, but he is a genius, and a gorgeous genius. Yeah. At this moment, Carly suddenly broke from his hidden reality. He stepped up before the open door of the room and, in full pure form, peered in. For a moment it was so still, and their conversation went on so smoothly, he mistrusted his own existence. Maybe he was only imagining this. Maybe it was just a dream. Maybe in reality he was still on the other end of the hall by the elevator, and this was all an illusion of company and vibrant life. Did you see during Hold Me how Siva? The sentence trailed off. A pair of eyes started, a mouth dropped open, a face blushed, a head turned, then another. Oh my fucking god! That's all caps. Wow, that's Carly Saturn! He was frozen. Before he could turn a hip or take a step in reverse, the whole horde of them were on their feet. They rushed him, swarmed him, stumbled and skittered, and slathered onto him, surrounding on all sides, ready to bow down and eat him alive. A hand grazed his shoulder, slid down his arm, but the rest were too in awe, too scared to touch him. They bobbed around him, swaying and stepping like waves of water, staring, grinning. God, he's naked, one of them breathed. Is he drunk? Practically whispered directly in his ear, but not addressed to him. He tried to look in their faces. There was a lush redhead with freckles, and then, almost immediately, his confused and rapidly jittering eyes fell on the biggest one. This was a tall, stout woman-man. Bright, crystal blue eyes slanted like a cat, rich, full, pink lips of plastic surgery heart, and gaunt, hollow, high-boned cheeks to match. All clean-shaven, but except for the slightest bit of gray, peach fuzz, and strawberry, medium-long hair, as straight and thick and coarse as horsehair. A big belly in front underneath a Carly Saturn t-shirt, and that wasn't all. What was this? What was this? Carly's eyes bounced, almost not believing what his eyes told him. But there it was, as real as a stranger's, chipping black-painted nails. A pair of mule's ears sprouted up through the hair on top of their head. Oh, here come the animal people! Here come the animal people! That makes me think that this is from 2011 because I had a picture of somebody who looked like this that I did when I was working at the mall, which was 2010-2011. Carly stumbled forwards towards the room, and in unison they all fell back, giving him space, giving him an out. I need clothes, he blurted out suddenly to the mule. Can you lend me some clothes? He looked around at them all. Anybody? Yes, yeah, they answered enthusiastically. Yes, of course. They all ushered him forwards, towards the room, ready to hurl clothes at him from all sides. If he merely said the word, anything of theirs would be his. The mule stepped in front and ushered him with one hand, leading this way to the hotel room. Mysteriously, as if materialized from midair, a slim black piece of fabric was suddenly in their hand, and the mule offered it out to Carly without hesitation. What's that? Hey, give him some real clothes, they protested, but by then it was already far too late. Carly threw on the little black dress he'd been given and yanked it down around his legs. Altogether, the slender thing reached his knees. The torso was tight, and the back, nothing but a few straps, but the skirt was loose, and he could move freely in it. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you so much. Can we get a picture? Begged the beaming faces that looked up at him. You are so beautiful. Oh, Carly, we love you. He looked at all of them. He looked from one to the other. But for the life of them, he could not tell any of them apart. Carly backed away slowly, and then, Carly! The bellow came from the end of the hall. Carly's head shot upright. and in the direction of the voice, and in an instant all the blood ran out of his face. Paul, Sherry. Carly turned and broke to run in the other direction. He should have just gone in the room with all his fans. They would have fucking protected him. Top speed, in less time than it took to draw a breath. Maybe he didn't want to get them involved, I don't know. The bodyguards tore down the hall after him, boots pounding the carpeted floor. Carly raced, breath short, legs pressed to their taut limits as he pulled to stay ahead of them. He rounded one corner, the dress bundling between his knees, threatening to trip him up. Then rushed, fighting not to stumble, down that hall, the rapidly flittering fluorescent lights, the sterile whiteness of the doors. Again he rounded a corner, without the smallest idea how close Paul and Sherry were anymore, just knowing he had to keep moving. Every hall looked the same, each one doubled back upon what he had just seen, all blending into one, turning this luxurious hotel into an eerie and foreboding, even threatening place. At last, in a sudden spring of finally different sights, there appeared right before Carly a pair of double doors, big, steel like metal. Carly rushed ahead, braced his blow with a forearm and shoulder, and like a battering ram he flung himself into the room. The heavy double doors swatted shut behind him. Carly skidded his slippery bare feet to a stop on the hard tile floor, heart still pounding and breath heaving wildly like a game animal. He shot his gaze this way and that, wide-eyed and all on edge. All of a sudden he found himself in a silent place, a hidden place. Even the air itself seemed huddled together in suspended quiet, as if any loud disturbance could cause visible ripples, as if in water. And Carly stood in the middle of this profound stillness, and his breath became shorter, calmer, and icier. Again he looked around, but smoother this time, feeling the invitation of the room and soothing into it, seeing what he did not see before. It was dimly lit, night lights, but still plenty enough to see by with the average eye. Rolling counters, as steel-like as the doors, shiny and raw, lined the room in rows. The sinks were dry and barren. Every pot and holder was placed in order on the racks and shelves or safely tucked away in one of the refrigerators, and every piece of smaller equipment was put to bed and out of sight. An itch rubbed tinglingly in the corner of Carly's brain, imagining he was just on the verge of hearing a droplet of water fall, but it never came. The faucets were all dry. It was anticipation only. He breathed ice and mist into his metal and plastic kitchen. And finally, Paul and Sherry seemed 1,000 miles away. Timidly, with burdening hesitation, Siva leaned his weight into the palm of his hand against the kitchen doors. 4 a.m. was late for any working crew, and predictably the area was empty. But a heavy, sogging weight still hung over Siva, littering his body like the stench of rotting garbage, making his skin crawl. He wasn't supposed to be here. This was off limits. Carly? His young voice was barely above a whisper. He, too, as if the room itself compelled it, scanned his head from one side to the other slowly, letting his eyes read the shapes and forms of the place. And at the same time, as this meek introduction, he hunted for his companion. Carly, he called again, this time louder but more plaintive. Hey, Carly. One more glance around then, just for good measure. He dared to step a foot forwards and create a tiny ripple of noise with his padding sock. He's in socks? He doesn't even have shoes? I guess it's okay to be in socks if you're running on carpet. You're not going to slide around. As minuscule as the sound was, he didn't hear the others as he searched. He maneuvered his way this way and that, tilting his head over and finally crouching down altogether to try and see underneath some of the wheeled tables. He didn't hear from behind him the minute minute scratching, the skittering across the cold floor. A pair of hands suddenly clasped tight over Siva's mouth from behind, and before he could even fully jump and panic, his eyes only had time to pop before he heard the voice. Stay quiet, Carly demanded in a rough whisper. What is he, fucking commando now? Feeling the soft nod of Siva's head from behind his tightly clasped fingers, he slowly stepped back, treading lightly on his sticky feet, and gradually released his friend. Carly, where's the bodyguards? Carly asked in an urgent whisper, shooting new watchful glares into each corner of the room once again, as if they may be there, their big bodies tucked away in camouflage, just waiting for Carly to go too close to their concealed spot, and then they would snatch him up. I don't know, Siva breathed. I lost him in the hall. You're not lying, are you? God, no. Carly turned his wandering head and took a long, hard stare into Siva's eyes. Siva's deep, round, big, unwavering chestnut browns with all the hard, fast, steady loyalty of a bloodhound. Carly meant to cause him to look away with the intensity of his stare, but the plan backfired. Siva was grounded, and in the end it was the singer who turned his head down in overwhelmed and guilty shame. Siva's hardcore for that. I can't stare into somebody's eyes. Not even my own family. I mean, okay, if somebody said, like, I'll give you $20 to do it, I'd probably do it, but I hate it. I hate looking straight into people's eyes, even people who I love. I'm just not an eye connection person, you know what I mean? Like, I heard this thing one time that was saying, like, basically some people like to sit face to face so they can look into each other's faces. And some people like to sit side by side so they can just communicate like this and look over when they want, but not have to stare at each other, you know what I mean? I'm definitely the second one. Anyway, where was I? Alright, he murmured, I believe you. Siva let out a soft sigh. He shifted in his felty t-shirt and sweatpants. Come on, let's sneak back to our rooms. Then we can just deny the whole thing. Siva. Carly came back at him, and this time it was him who had the strain in his voice. Don't you want to find out what that thing was? Not really. Come on. Not really? Jeez, Carly. Alright, fine, the singer muttered dejectedly. We can go... It was at that moment that suddenly every dim light in the kitchen shut off cold, plunging them into absolute darkness. Oh my god, this is The Shining. Haunted hotel. A brief, startled scream passed from Siva's mouth, making every hair in both bodies stand erect on end and their skin crawl with chills. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Siva stuttered out in whispers. Shh, was Carly's answer. He looked around fervently, trying desperately. I used to love using that word, fervently. Trying desperately to see through the darkness. From somewhere, someplace, some dark and mysterious place, he heard skittering like footsteps of an animal. It's here. Instantly, Siva's head snapped from side to side, trying to scan the darkness, trying to pick out their fear from the pitch blackness. Come on, let's just go, he said. Let's just go for the door. And just ignore it? But again, the skittering could be heard. Okay, maybe you're right. Let's just go. Carly and Siva searched the area, desperately trying to reorient themselves, trying to find a hint or glimmer of light to help guide their way towards the exit. Where's the door? Damn, I don't know, it's so fucking dark. All of a sudden, the words had barely left Carly's thin little dry lips when in a burst, the double metal doors of the kitchen flew open and the lights all blew back on. There they are, squealed the mule in unbridled glee. He pointed an impassionate finger, jabbing violently in the direction of the two musicians. Oh my god, Carly Saturn! Semativa! In our hotel! Is that the name of their band? Semativa? That's funny. That's like sativa and sema together, I guess. I don't know. Oh my god, that is them. In rushed the mob, eyes fixed and arms outstretched. Frantic, panicked, Siva and Carly leapt into the opposite directions and dashed rapidly, tripping over their own legs to try and circumvent the crowd, get around them, and then outrun them. Carly felt himself just barely slip through oily fingertips, brushing his shoulders, whisking his hair and thighs and the strands of his borrowed dress. Siva tried to call out to him, but he had been caught and had his arms bound and his mouth muffled by the deep kiss and grasp of one of the mule's large, fervent friends. See, I told you I used to love that word. Pivoting on fast ankles, Carly flew out the door, out into the bright light of the hallway, and barreling almost directly straight into an all-too-familiar big body. Carly, hey! Carly ducked, found himself suddenly down on all fours, and rocketed through Paul's legs like a jackrabbit. These people are so fucking out of control. If it was me, I would just be like, hey, let's talk, okay? You know, and then what's the bodyguard gonna do? But no, these people have to be crazy. Because it's like that fantasy I talked about in the first episode of Carly Saturn, you know? Just, it's fantasy, you know? Anyway, just for a split second, he could feel it, the whoosh of air that the bodyguard's arms made when he grabbed for Carly and missed. Just the fantasy of being able to just give in fully to your lizard brain and just be a complete beast and leave all the human shit to somebody else. Off Carly went, shooting bullet-like down the hall. Instantly, Paul and Sherry's boots were there in his ears, following in heated pursuit. And not alone. From behind them, there was the racing steps of the mule and the other fans, washed in their Semativa shirts and fan gear. Oh my god. This is like a scene from a comedy, honestly. Hey Carly, they screamed after him. Come back. One picture with us, please. He would swear he heard a giggle in there somewhere. Yeah, because it's fucking funny. Oh, I'm at 20 minutes already? Okay, cool. You know what? That reminds me of when I was a freshman in college. There was this, and you know, spoken word was really big back then, and I fucking hated spoken word because it was always just like so fucking in your face, and I hated it. But like when I moved in, they wanted us to attend all these fucking, performances and stuff, all these like, you know, I don't know, all these orientations and stuff, you know, we're supposed to go to them all, and I wasn't smart enough yet to know that you could just fucking blow them all off. So I went to this one, and it was this girl doing spoken word, and she was basically a racist, but against white people. Like, I mean, I'm not making this shit up, like, you can say what you want, but that's what it was. And she had this whole fucking like speech where she was just like clowning on Jews, Italians, and Irish, and anybody else who was like, any white people who were like, I mean, like, okay, you know, times change, right? And you know, like in the beginning of the 20th century, like especially the 20s, 30s, and all that shit, like obviously it wasn't the same as it is now. And you know, like Italians, Jews, Irish, and Polish, and people like that were really like discriminated against. Now they're just seen as like, oh, it's all just white, you know, and they're all lumped in with the WASPs, you know. But back then it was like, no, WASPs are here, and then you Italians, Irish, Jews, and all you, like, stay in the ghetto, right? So basically she was just saying about how those people fucking suck, and how, like, you know, because now they're all lumped in with a wasp, that they don't fucking matter anymore. I don't know, it was just fucked up. But anyway, she had this one part of her big ass speech thing where she was talking about like because she was pissed off that like rap was all about like money and like having hella bitches and shit like that, which I can kind of relate to, you know, whatever. But she's just one of these people that took it way too far, and whatever. But anyways, so she had this whole speech about how she wanted to see a music video where it was basically just the opposite of all the like pimp daddy shit or whatever. So she's just like, I want to see this black guy, like a little bit overweight, and he's driving his mom's van, and he has no jewelry, nothing, and he just has like a t-shirt and sweatpants, and like a whole herd mob of women is like chasing after him because he's like the most desirable man or whatever. Anyways, she said it, not me. So that's what that reminded me of, that scene from that shit. So yeah, okay.